Hello, first grade team. So last week we learned all about constellation and you made your own constellation charts or constellation cards. Today I'm going to show you how to invent your own constellation. So these are my examples from last week. If you didn't get a chance to do this, the lesson is posted in the folder of week of September 28th. Feel free to open them up and make a couple of your own. Today I'm going to work on this part. I'm going to make my own constellation up. So constellations can be animals, they can be people, they can be anything you want. The easiest way to make a constellation for me is going to be to draw it out first and then put some dots along my drawing, almost like a connected dots drawing. When you do this, when you start on the top, I want you to work very lightly because we're going to erase all the lines. For the video purposes, I can't draw very lightly, otherwise you won't be able to see it. So I'm going to draw pretty hard so you can see my animal, and then I'm going to swap it out. So watch. I am going to invent a constellation that's called Mr. M's Shark. So I'm going to start off by drawing a shark up here. So I'm going to start off with the shark body. Remember, nose is going to go down into a mouth. I want a big open mouth for my shark. A couple of fins coming down like this. One big dorsal fin. And I'm going to give my shark a pretty large tail. So this will be my rough outline of a shark. Now, from this drawing, I'm going to decide where I want to put my stars. So if you notice on the other ones, on the actual constellation, the Little Dipper, it's made of 7 stars, kind of on the corners. So I want my stars to be on most of the points for my shark. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to darken up where I think the corners of my shark are. So all I'm doing is I'm putting some dots, which I'm going to pretend are my stars. Maybe a big dot for the eye, and maybe I'll add a few small dots for the gills. But this is how my stars for Mr. M's shark constellation would be laid out. Now, if you drew lightly, what you can do is grab an eraser and just erase the lines in between your stars. If you see on mine, I had to draw a little bit darker so my lines still show up. So what I did is I actually have another piece of paper I was working on. So these lines, if you pretend that this is the body of my shark, these lines create my own shark constellation. Sorry, those dots, if I connect them by lines. Now, what I'm going to do next is I'm actually going to name it. So up here, I am going to write the name of my new constellation. This is going to be Mr. M's Shark. That's the new name of my constellation. The last thing I'm going to work on is adding something in the foreground. I already put some mountains. I put the beach over here. So for this scene, I'm just going to make it some buildings. I'm going to pretend we're out in the city of Detroit, and I am going to put some buildings in the front. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to think about shapes. So my buildings are going to come up from the front. I'm going to think about maybe a few rectangles as they come in. I don't want my buildings to be very even. Maybe we'll add in the Rensen up here. So these are my outlines of buildings. Since it is night, I am going to lightly color my buildings in. And maybe I'll add some windows in random spots. You are welcome to add whatever you want in the foreground. If you want to keep mountains, if you want to keep the beach, just think about where do you want to be when you see your own made-up constellation. So this is a general outline of my buildings. Now let's add some lights because I do want somebody to maybe see my building. So I'm going to grab a little bit of yellow, add a few windows on my buildings. And maybe not all of my windows are on, not all of the lights are on. So maybe some random spots where you see windows. I can maybe even add a little flagpole that sticks out here. Maybe one of my buildings has a West Maple flag with a paw print on it. This is the part you guys get to be as creative as you want. So remember, make your own constellation. If you like to connect the lines, you can. If not, just like we did last time, you can keep it as just simple dots and just make sure you name your constellation. Enjoy my STEAM class. I can't wait to hear what kind of constellations you came up with.